He invited her with a smile sharpened like a blade, a message wrapped in false courtesy that traveled across years of silence and struggle to reach the small, peeling apartment where his poor ex-wife now lived, and when she read the words, "You are cordially invited to my wedding," she understood immediately that it wasn't forgiveness, nostalgia, or respect that motivated him, but spectacle, humiliation, and revenge, because the men she once loved had never forgiven her for leaving when his ambition began to crush his humanity, and now, standing on the edge of wealth and social elevation, he wanted to parade her as proof of how far he had risen and how far she had fallen. Imagining her arriving alone in worn clothes, eyes downcast, whispers following her through the crowd like shadows, and in his mind the victory was already complete, yet what he never imagined was the quiet war she had been fighting for years, the nights she worked until dawn, the tears she swallowed for her children, the promises she made to herself when she chose dignity over luxury, because when she left him she wasn't running from poverty but from a man who valued money more than love, and in the years that followed she carried not only heartbreak but life itself, discovering she was pregnant with triplets after the divorce papers were signed, choosing not to tell him because she knew the children would become trophies or weapons, so she raised them alone, three identical souls who grew up sharing everything from toys to dreams, calling her their queen even when the fridge was nearly empty, and when the wedding day finally arrived she dressed not in bitterness but resolve, watching as a black limousine stopped outside her building, its polished surface reflecting the disbelief of neighbors who had only known her as the quiet woman who never complained. And as the driver opened the door she took a breath not for courage but for closure, stepping inside with her children beside her, their matching outfits pressed and perfect, their eyes bright with curiosity, and when the limo arrived at the grand venue the red carpet seemed to stretch like a bridge between past and present, between judgment and truth, and the guests fell silent as the door opened, because no one expected her to arrive like this, no one expected Grace to look so unbreakable. And when she stepped out holding the hands of three identical children, murmurs rippled through the crowd like a sudden wind, because the children looked unmistakably like the groom, the same eyes, the same chin, the same expression of quiet intensity, and as she walked forward heads turned, phones lowered, smiles froze, and at the altar the groom's confident smirk collapsed into confusion, then shock, then something dangerously close to fear, because in that moment he realized the story he thought he controlled had grown without him. And when she stopped a few steps away and met his eyes there was no anger in her gaze, only calm, a calm earned through years of endurance, and when he finally found his voice and whispered her name it sounded smaller than he remembered, while the bride beside him sensed the shift, the imbalance, the truth pressing its way into the open, and the ex-wife spoke clearly, not loudly, but every word carried weight, telling him she came because she was invited, because she would no longer hide, because these children deserved to stand in the light, and when one of the triplets looked up and asked innocently, "Mom, is this the man you said helped make us strong?" The silence broke into gasps, because the truth had a voice now, and it was young and unafraid, and the groom's world tilted as years of arrogance crumbled under a single sentence, guests exchanging glances as admiration replaced judgment, because they saw now who had truly risen and who had merely climbed, and as the ex-wife turned to leave, not seeking apology or recognition, the crowd parted not out of politeness but respect, and the triplets walked with her, heads high, proof that wealth is loud but integrity echoes longer, and as the limousine doors closed behind them the groom stood exposed, stripped of the narrative he had crafted, realizing too late that inviting her to shame her had instead revealed his own emptiness, while she rode away not in triumph but peace, knowing she had already won years ago when she chose love over luxury. And if this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you that strength often grows quietly before it arrives loudly, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because every story here is a reminder that truth always finds its moment, and when it does, it changes everything.